Hello class. Today we will be looking at chapter 7, which discusses internal forces. Now for this chapter we will only be looking at section 7.1, which talks about internal loadings and development in structural members. So when we're looking at this section, we can think about beams that are used for things such as bridges. When these beams are created, they're normally designed to support loads that apply forces that are perpendicular to the beam's axis. And normally these beams that are used for these bridges are often thicker at the supports than at the center of the span. Similarly, for a fixed column, like those for rectangular billboards, usually the columns are wider at the bottom and then thinner at the top. And the question is why, and this has to do with the internal forces that are associated with these beams and members that are supporting these structures. The design of any structural member requires finding the forces acting within the member to make sure that the material can resist the loads. So the reason why we're looking at these internal loadings is to make sure that we use the proper material for whatever structures we're creating, and then we're distributing the correct widths or thicknesses for the material. In the example on the right, we see here we want to determine the internal forces on the cross section at B. But first we need to determine the support reactions. So we want to determine the supports at point A and point D. And for here, it is showing a vertical component of dy and ay, as well as a horizontal component of dx with a moment. Then we need to cut the beam at the point B, which is the point of interest where we're saying that there's an external force being applied, and then draw a free body diagram of the halves of the beams. So the free body diagram would include the internal forces that are acting at the point B. And finally, we need to solve these unknown using the equilibrium equations. In two-dimensional cases, typically internal loads are shown with these three forces we see here, where we have the normal force, the shear force, and the bending moment. So the normal force is what we would normally see as the x-axis, and the shear force is what we would normally see as the y-axis, right? And the directions that these forces are pointing are the normal conventions of how we would show forces to be pointing. The loads on the bottom picture, we see that the loads on the left and the right section of B are equal and opposite in magnitude. If you notice the bottom left one, we have the shear force going down and the normal going to the right, and then a moment going counterclockwise. But then on the other side, we see all the forces being opposite, which makes sense for the internal forces to cancel out the moments and the total forces acting on it, whether it's normal and shear, should all be opposite in order for them to be equal and to equal 0. So this is what we see for two-dimensional internal forces, but we can make this a little bit more complicated by looking into three-dimensional, where we see that the normal force is the y-axis here, right? The force that would be connecting the axis that's connecting the two beams or poles or whatever the material may be. And then we see that we have the shear force, which is acting in the z or x direction, right? So this is sort of working planar towards the beam itself, right? And then we have the moment that can occur on any of these axes. So that's what it would look like in terms of 3 dimensions for internal loadings. So when determining internal loads, you take an imaginary cut, the place where we need to determine the internal loads, and then what you want to do is determine the supports and joints forces that are needed for the free body diagram. Draw the pieces with the normal, shear, and moment at the cut of the surface, and then apply the equilibrium equations. On the right, we see what is usually the convention for the signs that are used. So we see at the top right what they would use for a normal force. We see the middle what they would use for positive and shear force, and then we see the bottom where they would normally draw for positive moments. Let's take a look at our example. It asks us to determine the normal force, shear force, and bending moment acting just left of point B and just right of point C of 6 kilonewton force acting on the beam. First, we want to draw a free body diagram to find the support reactions. Here we have A of y vertically, D of y vertically, then D of x going horizontally, and we have the external force and the external moment. The support equations here, we find that if we're using the point D for our moment, we end up finding that A of y is equal to 5 kilonewtons. And this is all we really need in order to solve this problem, because all we're focused on is that point B and C, which is at the middle. So next, we split the beam from the point A to B, right? We have the forces acting in A direction, which is the 5 kilonewtons. And then we have those variables MB, NB, and VB for those unknown normal, shear, and bending moments. So the normal force here is 0, so there's no horizontal component. And we find that VB has to be 5 kilonewtons in order to cancel out with that AY, which is 5 kilonewtons. And then using the moment around B, we can find that the moment of B is 15 kilonewtons per meter. Similarly, if we're just looking at just right of C, we have pretty much the same equations, except now we have that external 6 kilonewtons acting on it. So we still have 0 for the normal. Now we have the shear force, or C, would be negative 1 kilonewtons, which means the shear would be acting in the opposite direction. And then we still have the same moment, which is 15 kilonewtons meter. If there's any other questions for this chapter 7, section 7.1, please feel free to reach out to me and ask any questions.